Crimea River. Crimea is a part of Russian territory. It's just true. It is annexed by Russia.
Wait, what?
This is the imperialist talk for supposedly anti-imperialist leftists.
Uh-oh.
He's obviously not anti-imperialist, right? Because
He claims he is.
Well, he claims a lot of things.
IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Change title. IDF didn't bomb the hospital. Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it fucking did. You fucking piece of. Yes, it absolutely did. You genocidal scumbag.
It is still unconfirmed who bombed the hospital. Hasan claims he was just repeating what most news outlets were saying at the time.
BBC and every other fucking Western outlet had also obviously arrived at that same conclusion early on in the morning. Why?
And they also apologized for it. That's the difference, Hasan, you fucking moron. Yeah, unfortunately, the entirety of the mainstream media just swallowed Hamas propaganda for a few hours before realizing, oh wait, this is, maybe we shouldn't have done this. Did you watch ISIS at Eurovision? No? What? That sentence isn't real. Leave me alone. Apparently I'm referencing this Willy Mac video. Oh.
Hello, fellow libtards. Last week I criticized Hasan for promoting
That's you guys.
propaganda, rewriting history, and his poor coverage of Ukraine. Hasan has since responded to these criticisms by doing the exact same thing, rewriting history, relying on the same clips that I've already debunked, and of course repeatedly calling me and everyone else who criticizes him a racist.
The only difference here is that you think brown man bad, brown man terrorist. These are not people who give a fuck about Angie content. Like, didn't this guy literally used to have like a straight up Nazi program?
And when he can't call
Definitely.
Muda Islamophobic because he's Muslim, he pulls Muda's race card on his behalf.
Has actively played a role in the we should get Hasan deplatformed train. Extra weird considering that he, went to the Hajj, did the Hajj, went to the Mecca. The fan base.
Why is release the hostages censored in chat? I have no idea. YouTube is incredibly paranoid. So the way that they automate what gets allowed through to the top chat and what doesn't is very strange. It's quite. I think they'd rather be safe than sorry, but it means a lot of words and terms just get absolutely fucking nuked.
That he's trying to cultivate desperately dehumanizes him, or at least the people that he aligns with legitimately hate Muslims.
Most importantly, we get to finally debunk the idea that I take Hasan out of context.
There are a million different instances.
Yeah, because he's doing this now. Hasan's doing the out of context thing. He just says out of context, but doesn't explain
including in the clips that he clipped out of context.
While proving he takes everyone else out of context.
Just the other day, Bibi fired a really good guy that a lot of people are pissed about, and he fired him because they had a disagreement, and that's like so Trump coded.
Well, he was like a moderating voice in the war room.
Yeah.
The person that they're talking about is Yoav Gallant. The person that they're calling a moderating voice said this, which is the reason why there is an active petition, an active application for a warrant for his arrest by the ICC.
We're talking about the fact that he's the only person that wants to end the war. And I personally don't understand how that's not relevant. But now people like Hasan...
Again, they don't care. Like, so many... we're kind of just memeing at this point, because after watching Hasan react to that clip of him saying that HTS were being coordinated by Israel, and just having no evidence to back it up, but still managing to convince his audience that he was like in the right about it, like I just... It's all memes. It's all like, it doesn't matter. They can be so obviously wrong and still just keep on hammering. So at this point, we're just memeing. We're just posting. You would never hold the standard up to anyone on the other side. Like, I call Mustafa Barghouti a moderating voice in the Palestinian movement because he's a non-violent campaigner. When he leads protests and when he leads political action, it's always non-violent, even though he also like downplays the Holocaust and has occasionally chanted along with people saying to kill Jews. So it's like, but yeah, the fact is that you have to take into account that there's so much like problematic behavior on all sides of this whole conflict that you're going to have to engage with people who have engaged in and said bad shit in the past. Like Marwan Barghouti, how often do we talk about him? Bro, he supported fucking killing people. He's in jail because he like led attacks on like civilians. But again, he's also a moderating voice. He's also probably the most likely candidate to reach out for peace on the Palestinian side. So but no one cares if you say it about them, right? Like by this logic, Israel would have been right to never negotiate with Arafat, right? Like they're using the same logic that Netanyahu used. Like, why would you ever negotiate with this guy? He's a terrorist. He killed people. Yeah. But obviously, you have to also take things that these leaders do that can be used as a potential springboard for something positive. Okay.
Are going on their channels and accusing us of supporting a war criminal.
That is not a good guy. I'm sorry. It's not. And it's like shocking to see Ethan say this stuff.
How do you not know what he's talking about? Isn't this what you do? Ethan corrects Hasan, and Hasan doesn't get back to him, just letting people believe this false story.
Ethan made a video of you talking about this. Yeah.
This video catches Hasan in his lies and holds him accountable for his low quality reporting. It's like, we could do better than this. We could strive for higher quality. Like Holskern, who makes specialized watches and jewelry made from natural materials, giving them a really unique design.
Look at it, wooden. It's wood within wood.
Like this watch made entirely out of wood. How did they do that? It's so...
How do they do that? I want to know.
Cool. Holskern is a watch and jewelry brand for both men and women based out of Austria. And their products range from casual everyday watches to sophisticated designs that I have never seen before. And Holskern has over 1,000 different designs, so whether you're looking for an everyday watch or a nice piece for your suit, Holskern's going to have something for you. Whenever we got friends getting married, you could bet I'm busting out the Holskern drip, the ring, the necklace, and we gotta have something for the lady. And they're all made in small quantities, ensuring a high standard of quality. From watches and rings to sunglasses and necklaces, Holskern's going to give you something that stands out. And they offer a 2-year warranty on everything. That's how confident they are in their product. So whether you're buying something for your dad, mom, girlfriend, or yourself, Holskern's going to have something that feels...
Is that a wooden hand?
Whether you're buying something for your dad, mom, girlfriend, or your...
How much? Where are they getting all this wood?
Yourself, Holskern's going
What the fuck? It's like a clutch bag? I don't even know what this is. Women. All three of you in chat. What is this? It's got a handle. It's just a handbag, isn't it? Just a what? Why is it made of wood?
Have something that feels special. So go to holskern.com/WillyMac Show and use code WillyMac to get 15% off site-wide for your holiday gifts. Thank you, Holskern, for sponsoring today's video.
Give it a ballsy balls. Give it a ballsy balls.
Before Hasan reacts to my video, he prefaces it with everyone who makes good videos agrees with me and everyone who makes bad videos criticizes me.
It's weird. All the good YouTubers who put a lot of thought and effort into their almost academic paper level researched YouTube essays.
Who the fuck is he talking about?
Almost always happen to be, you know, in the Hasan Abi side of the things. And all of the worst drama pervert, Keemstar adjacent, orbiter, weirdo fucking losers who love hyping
Why
up
did you have to throw in orbiter? For what? The commentary community?
pedophiles and Nazis. Those are the guys who always hate me for some reason, you know?
Instead of watching me directly,
Almost academic. Damn, that's got a sting.
Hasan watches BadEmpanada react to me. He needs backup.
Oh, dude, BadEmpanada.
He does this to me as well. He can't react to people without backup. He needs someone to hold his hand through all the arguments. Otherwise, he's like uncomfortable going through it by himself.
Went from bad to good empanada. BadEmpanada went from bad empanada to based empanada.
Like, this is your champion? Okay, I'll respond.
Bro, he's exactly the same. He's just defending you now. That's the only difference. Like, everything is viewed through the lens of, are you nice to me right now or are you mean to me?
On to both of you. The first thing Hasan criticizes is me going after his poor coverage of the Al-Ahi hospital bombing.
IDF didn't bomb the hospital? Yes, it did!
Does this guy provide any evidence that he didn't bomb the hospital?
Oh no. Oh god. Academic level analysis. How do you know they didn't? How do you know the Jews didn't do 9/11, eh? How do you... Excuse me. Are we still on this? It's over a year. It's been over a year. Why are we still... I know why... Hang on. I know why he's on this. If I remember correctly. Yeah. Yeah, I recall. I was there. This was him... I tweeted that this was him just after it happened. It is Israel who intentionally struck the hospital, massacring over 500 defenseless, sheltering refugees and injured people receiving treatment, including women and children. There's no other actor with the capability of causing such damage. Hamas does not have any weaponry even remotely capable of having carried it out. Hamas rockets are makeshift and notoriously weak, carrying explosives that are not even capable of leveling a small house, let alone a massive hospital with the power required to cause a blast big enough to kill so many people. Attached are images of real examples. Yeah, he's Any notion this attack was not carried out by Israel with the high-tech, high-yield precision weaponry that such a massacre required is obvious bullshit. And he's never going to back off of this. 500, we know is false. Everyone disagrees with it. It came right out of the Hamas authorities, and people later investigated and found out that the number could be no higher than like 100 at most. The amount it didn't flatten a hospital. It hit a car park. Okay, the crater it left was too small to be even like the smallest JDAM munition. So, do you see how much editorializing he's doing here? Defenseless, refugees, injured, treatment, women, children. Like, this is all just riffing off of a Hamas spokesperson's claim to the press. And this absolute fucking worm is too proud to let go of that. So now he's just, and now he knows, I guess he knows that no investigation backs him up on any of this. And now he's just saying, oh, well, how do you know that Israel didn't do it? Come on. Almost academic. Almost. Just to be clear, no one at this point suggests that it's more likely that Israel did the bombing of that hospital, of that car park. No one. Okay? We can go through it if you want. Okay? Let's have a look through it. So we have New York Times here. New York Times. This is an update for this from November now. So this is like a couple of weeks after it happened. I try to avoid the journalistic sin as both sidesism when information favors one version of events over another. And while much about the hospital explosion remains unclear, the available evidence points towards a Palestinian rocket, not an Israeli airstrike, as the more likely cause. Associated Press, November 22nd. This is an updated analysis again. Editor's note. The Associated Press initially assessed that the explosion was likely caused by a rocket launched from Gaza, within Gaza, that misfired, and that assessment has not changed. New analysis adds to the evolving picture of what happened. It does not alter CNN's earlier findings that the blast was likely caused by a malfunctioning rocket, not an Israeli airstrike. BBC, they got a bunch of analysts in here. They got UK weapons experts, they got French intelligence, they got their own independent experts. Again, likely a missile fired from within Gaza towards Israel that was responsible. French military intelligence also came up with this conclusion. US intelligence, obviously we know that because of the Biden clip. You got to shoot straight. Here is a former UN war crimes investigator. There's always a piece of bomb after the fact. In 20 years of investigating war crimes, this is the first time I haven't seen any weapon remnants. And I've worked 3 years in Gaza. In case you're wondering about weapon remnants, another pretty funny indication here is that Islamic Jihad initially claimed that they had a piece of the missile fragment, that they had a fragment of the missile.
Hamas and Islamic Jihad have so far offered little evidence to back their claims that Israel fired the missile at the hospital that night. Islamic Jihad claimed to have a missile fragment, but have not produced it.
So that was, I think this was this was like a couple of days after it happened. And then after Islamic Jihad claimed that they had the missile fragment, Ghazi Hamad, a senior Hamas official, said, the missile has dissolved like salt in the water. There's actually an elaborate thing of this. The missile is dissolved like salt in the water. It's vaporized. Nothing is left, as tends to happen. You know, that's a very normal thing to happen when, again, it's not. There's just no one agrees with this. Everyone says it's more likely that this was a rocket from fired within Gaza. I think they just couldn't find out exactly which rocket it was because there were 2 barrages fired at around the same time that the hospital explosion happened. I think there was one from 7 p.m. from Al-Qassam brigades, and there was another from Islamic Jihad from that cemetery behind the hospital. People keep on referring falsely to a forensic architecture analysis. Now, on October 20th, they initially tried to claim that this was more consistent, the crater was more consistent with an artillery shell. So they're saying this came from Israel because it's an artillery shell. They walked that back, though. Also, you'll notice that forensic architecture, I don't know who was behind this Twitter thread, but they keep on calling it the IOF, the Israeli Occupation Force, which is basically a term that's used by people who hate Israel and want to call it the IDF. But in any case, we can just look at their analysis because it changed. They deleted a tweet. And then they said, we shared an image of what we suggested could be an artillery shell impact crater. This was a mistake. The image likely showed impact from a rocket. We've removed the tweet, but we stand by the overall directional analysis. So they're arguing about the direction that the rocket came from, but they still say it was more likely a rocket. So when you hear people saying that forensic architecture tried to blame this on an IDF interceptor, they're lying, okay? That's not what forensic architecture ever said. What forensic architecture did say was they debunked this guy, because initially the IDF came up with an initial report, which is still on their website, but also this guy, Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner, went on CNN, BBC, and he showed them this image of an Al Jazeera camera, which captured this rocket. And in the whole video, you see this rocket get met by something else, then it goes blank, and then you don't see anything, and then you see the explosion. But people have looked at this since and basically found that they found that this had nothing to do with the hospital explosion. They found that this was just a completely unrelated event that happened like 2 kilometers away. So the mistake that the IDF made here was this guy saying that this is definitely the one that hit the hospital. But no one agrees with that. This is just seen as an unrelated interception. Forensic architecture says that, and you can even see them say that in that thread, actually. I think, yeah. They said it's an unrelated detonation. It's got nothing to do with the hospital explosion. So forensic architecture's analysis from here on is basically just them saying, we don't know. We don't have definite proof of anything. But they still say that this was, like, we can't actually see the rocket that did the landing in the car park. But even they will still say that this was unrelated, and that it was more likely a rocket. So is that good enough evidence? Is that good enough for the almost academic? Why would the IDF use this information? Well, I don't know, because this guy did this on the news. He used the Al Jazeera footage, but the IDF's website doesn't use that. The IDF doesn't refer to the Al Jazeera footage in their website. They have a whole thing here. This is an initial report. This is from the day after, I think. Yeah. October 17th was the explosion. I think this came out on the 18th. And they don't use the Al Jazeera footage. So I don't know if this guy was just riffing by himself. Like he just came up with his own explanation, but here's the Supreme Leader Hagari. You know, he had seen better days by this point. But they don't use the Al Jazeera footage. This is just like a 43-second clip. Maybe they were trying to do damage control, but this is them just using aerial footage. Obviously, they use that intercepted phone call that no one thinks is real. But yeah, that's the only thing. That's the only like little hole in the theory. The only hole in the theory is that we can't find the exact rocket that landed. Just that rockets were being fired at the time, that the crater is more consistent with a rocket, and that the IDF interception that we saw in the Al Jazeera video happened too far away for it to be the hospital. That's it. This is kind of why I don't really like talking all that much about this particular conflict anymore, because do you notice how there's no repercussion for being that far off the mark? Like, it's so shameless. Like, no one, the amount of people who still to this day can't admit that this was most likely a Palestinian rocket. It doesn't matter, though. There's no shame in it. There's no blowback. There's nothing. There's no repercussion. Whereas on the other end, if you're doubtful of something that turned out to be true, even if it's for like a few minutes, then you're like fucking David Irving, right? Like, what's the standard? Like, are you kidding me? This guy just like, not only did he throat Hamas propaganda, he embellished it. He riffed off of it. Like, and it's fine. It's completely acceptable. Almost academic analysis. Almost, okay? Probably wouldn't pass, but you know, you might be in the classroom saying it. How do you know? How do you know it wasn't Israeli? Okay.
First thing Hasan criticizes is me going after his poor coverage of the Al-Ahi hospital bombing.
IDF didn't bomb the hospital? Yes, it did!
Does this guy provide any evidence that he didn't bomb the hospital? No, he doesn't. He just insisted it didn't.
What makes it significant, it was just...
Oh, Hasan agrees with that. He likes that analysis. Yeah.
Evidence that he didn't bomb the hospital? No, he doesn't. He just insisted it didn't.
What makes...
Oh, he's happy about it. He needed someone else to come up with that one for him, you know? Like, that's why he needs people to react to his critics for him.
Does this guy provide any evidence that he didn't bomb the hospital? No, he doesn't. He just insisted it didn't.
Yeah, bro. Go get him. Go get him, Tiger. Hasan, when one of his academics comes in with well, how do you know that didn't happen? Yeah.
What makes it significant, it was just how poorly Hasan handled a breaking story at the time, speaking as if he had any insight and demonizing everyone who believed in any other expert's opinion.
IDF didn't bomb the hospital? Change title? IDF didn't bomb the hospital? Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Yes, it did.
Yes, it fucking did. You fucking piece of shit. Yes, it absolutely did. Fuck you. Fuck you. You genocidal scumbag.
It is still unconfirmed who bombed the hospital. Hasan claims he was just repeating what most news outlets were saying at the time.
BBC and every other fucking Western outlet had also obviously arrived at that same conclusion early on in the morning. Why?
And they also apologized for it. That's the difference, Hasan, you fucking moron. Yeah, unfortunately, the entirety of the mainstream media just swallowed Hamas propaganda for a few hours before realizing, oh, wait, this is, maybe we shouldn't have done this. This is New York Times. The early versions of the coverage and the prominence it received in a headline, news alert, and social media channels relied too heavily on claims by Hamas and did not make clear that those claims could not immediately be verified. Yes, that's the difference. PIJ misfired a rocket. That's every single investigation, not just IDF. Wheel of woke sellouts, you fucking retard. Did you just jump in? Rewind like 15 minutes so you can understand how much of a dumb fuck comment that was. Yeah, every outlet since then, every investigation since then has said it's most likely a rocket. Even forensic architecture. Okay? Just saying.
Why would they not arrive at that conclusion? It makes no fucking sense to be like, oh, this must have been a rocket misfire.
He repeated the same thing in our conversation last year, claiming he was talking to forensic analysts.
I was talking to open source intelligence people and also forensic analysts. That's what I was doing. And
was he? I thought he was just listening to whistles and looking for JDAMs. Did he bring forensics analysts on the day this happened? Did I miss that?
Still do.
But if you go back to his stream, he wasn't talking to anybody. He just read tweets.
Now, here's Evan Hill working as a forensic investigator at the Washington Post.
This guy did not say it was an Israeli bomb. He repeated the same thing that everyone else did. Hasan just ignores it.
IDF blames Islamic Jihad for a failed rocket launch which hit the hospital in Gaza. You think that there is not proof for this?
He blamed the BBC and Geo Confirmed for his poor reporting.
One of the things that I'm sure you didn't mention was the Geo Confirmed Twitter thread.
But if you go to the last 40 minutes of his stream, Geo Confirmed corrects the story.
I think Geo Confirmed, they initially said that the Al Jazeera video was the rocket, but then they said that it wasn't. What did they say after?
And Hasan still writes them off.
Oh, here, by the way, someone making fun of the final conclusion of Geo Confirmed. So a missile exploded in midair, and then a piece of that already exploded missile hit a hospital and killed hundreds of people. This is the this is the absolute dumbass that you guys are putting forward as your conclusive analyzer. Okay, God damn it, brother. Jesus Christ, that's how.
Just show us one analyst then. Show us one, because even forensic architecture said it was likely a fucking rocket. Oh God. I'll show you again. I thought, honestly, I came back to this because I thought, where did I hear this? I thought that forensic architecture had blamed it on an IDF interception, which wouldn't really make sense because IDF interceptors don't explode when they land. It's like a massive failure if they explode when they land. I think it's only been caught on camera once, and it's a smaller explosion than anything we saw with that hospital. But where did I hear that people keep saying forensic architecture? I think it's this, if I remember correctly.
Campaign on the other side as well?
It's not very sophisticated.
Really? For weeks when everybody was convinced that Israel bombed that hospital and killed 500 people?
Have you seen the latest from forensic architecture on that one, by the way?
Yeah, I went through the picture clipping a little bit, but...
Yeah, so the forensic architecture, which is by no means, Palestinian-like leaning.
Oh yeah, no means Palestinian leaning. This is the same forensic architecture that was calling it the IOF on Twitter when they were publishing these investigations. Okay, so he's lied there. Okay.
Found that the most likely way that happened was not a deliberate strike by Israel. It was an Iron Dome interceptor that hit a Islamic Jihad rocket and then deflected and landed in the hospital. They also argue on top of that
this is not what they said. He's lying. This is their most recent investigation. It was from February. This is months afterwards. What they were saying as an IDF interceptor is from this picture, which they say was unrelated to the Al-Ahi blast. That's forensic architecture's claim. Lerner claims that the Al Jazeera footage captured the misfiring rocket responsible for the blast in Al-Ahi. According to our analysis, this missile is likely an Israeli interceptor unrelated to the Al-Ahi blast. He didn't read the report. He just... Okay.
It could not have been an Islamic Jihad rocket because all of them, they found all of them in the area, and all of them had no fuel left. And you need fuel in order to create an explosion that kills.
Now I think this is what they claimed, yeah, but no one else I think has verified this. This is only, they claimed that they counted all 17 rockets fired by Islamic Jihad and were able to account for all of them. But again, I think they're the only ones who have claimed this. And also Hamas were firing rockets as well. They were claiming responsibility for rockets at the exact same time. But again, he keeps saying by no means did Israel bomb Al-Ahi a few weeks before this event. When people say there was damage to one of the buildings in the hospital, but I don't think it was because they directly targeted the hospital. When people talk about bombing a hospital, I don't know if they're talking about bombing like a ward, like a building that's just full of patients, or more likely it's like somewhere in the complex, like they drone strike it because there's someone running around with a rocket launcher, or like maybe a building just next to the hospital building that damages the building.
Remember the Holodomor?
But no, I don't believe there was any Israeli bombing on the Al-Ahi hospital that resulted in like 100 people dying. Like, yeah.
They wouldn't be filled up because it would have exploded, right?
No. It's the fuel fuels the explosion. By the time they hit the ground, that fuel is gone.
Stupid. How f***ing stupid. I was literally repeating what the BBC coverage was.
If you use the Wayback Machine and go to October 17th on the BBC's website, the BBC clearly reported that that's what Hamas claimed. On the day of the bombing, Hasan was mad that the BBC made this distinction, calling them racist.
Love that they keep saying Hamas-run health ministry, like it's not the fucking health ministry. It's ridiculous. Like, oh, Hamas-run health ministry. Well, you know how they are. You know how those dirty Arabs are. They lie all the time. You know what I mean? They're probably lying again.
God, he's so fucking racist. Criticizing Hamas is not criticizing Arabs, you fucking Ottoman colonizer fuck. Why? Oh, God. The next time Hasan criticizes the IDF, should we just say, oh, well, yeah, but of course you don't believe those dirty, lying Jews. Come on. You would never let someone get away with this, Hasan. Stop. Only difference is most Jews actually are kind of sympathetic to Israel. Most Jews would qualify as Zionists, actually. That's not true of Arabs and Hamas. Most Arabs probably don't support Hamas. Like,
They are. You know how those dirty Arabs are. They lie all the time. You know what I mean? They're probably lying again.
Hasan, while reacting to my video, still lies.
Yeah, the BBC, they shouldn't actually say. The BBC should just say this happened. They shouldn't say Hamas told us. Yeah, fuck.
About it to this day.
The funniest parts about our conversation when this dildo came on the stream was when he didn't even know that, like, my reasoning originally for why Israel bombed Al-Ahi was because, one, Israel had bombed the Al-Ahi hospital 2 days prior. 2, Israel had bombed a whole bunch of places, including other hospitals that they've forcibly evacuated at that point. And 3, BBC.
When was the last time Lorna tried to figure out the combatant-civilian ratio? Isn't that just basic stuff? Yogesh, I don't know if you're trolling or if you don't watch my streams or if you're a liar or whatever. Basically, the claim is that because 50% of the people who have died are women and children, that suggests slightly less children than the average population in the whole of Gaza, which is, I think, like 50% total. So if there's less than 50% people dying are children, then that seems to suggest like a modicum of discernment, but not really enough. So if you assume that the same number of women civilians is about the same number for the same proportion for men, then that would suggest that quite a large number of those deaths, definitely easily the majority, are civilians, okay? Because Hamas is not normally... they might conscript 15, 16, 17-year-olds. They're probably not going to conscript women, okay? Generally not. They're definitely, I think if you go with Air Wars and how they studied ISIS, I think it was Air Wars, that said that anyone under 12 is absolutely 100% never going to be considered participating in hostilities. People who are kind of 12 to 16 are almost always never going to be in hostilities. So that would suggest that Israel has at the very least been insanely tolerant of high civilian casualties if the health ministry's data is correct, which most people seem to say it's roughly accurate in terms of gender breakdown. Yeah. That is a far cry from saying whatever that people were concluding from that Air Wars report that Israel killed like 99% civilians or some shit. Couple of issues, okay? Couple of issues. And this is something that Yogesh has never heard before, okay? So they're going to get their mind blown. Or they're just going to act like it's completely irrelevant. I don't know. Couple of problems, okay? One, obviously, Hamas are never going to tell us how many soldiers they've lost so long as the war continues. I think one person said 6,000 early on when the total death toll was 24, and then they immediately retracted it. So that kind of shows you that they're very shy about bringing these totals forward. If you're comparing it to other wars, that is fucking ridiculous, Yogesh, because other wars are not like the war in Gaza. This is the biggest urban war since World War II. A few differences. People try to compare it to Mosul, okay? Mosul had quite a few key differences. One, there was an evacuation corridor where people could go into displaced persons camps outside of the city. For the civilians who were stuck there at gunpoint and forced to stay, the soldiers that were coming into the city to engage with ISIS were Iraqi soldiers. The rapport between the civilian population in Mosul and the soldiers was obviously far more present and far more optimistic than the rapport between Gazan civilians and the IDF. We've also got the fact that ISIS had 3 years, I think, to dig into Mosul when they captured it. Hamas have had 17 years. And before Hamas took over in 2007, they were already a prominent force in the Strip. Before they even became Hamas, they controlled like over a third of the mosques in Gaza, okay? They have had decades to build themselves up for this. They've had decades to build the biggest tunnel network, the most concentrated tunnel network in the history of urban warfare. There's no comparison to that. And they fight in civilian uniform, and they are basically the only force there, which means the displaced people in Gaza have nowhere else to go. There are so many complications. Does it mean that every Israeli strike is correct or that their policy is correct? No. It probably still suggests that Israel, in one, because they're tolerant of Gazan civilian casualties, and two, because they want to keep their soldiers alive and are willing to risk a lot of collateral and engage in a lot of collateral damage to achieve that, then yeah, most of the deaths are going to be civilians. At a much higher ratio than even conflicts that are deemed to be similar, like Mosul or Raqqa or even Fallujah. But you going off of what people can gather from social media whilst the war is still occurring, here's something that none of the people you watch are ever going to show you, by the way. This is from during the war in 2014. This is from Protective Edge. It's a PSA from the Interior Ministry in Gaza. I can Google translate these for you as it goes through. Okay. This is also not to mention the fact that Hamas literally tells people not to evacuate, but okay, Google Translate. And now you're justifying that. You've just see now Yogesh is now justifying basically like keeping civilians in a war zone. So that's cute. Okay, good. Whoever was killed or martyred has the status of a citizen of Gaza, of Palestine, before we talk about their jihadist position or military rank. Don't forget to always add innocent civilian to describe those killed in the aggression on Gaza after the Israeli raid. Interesting. Start the news covering resistance activities, response to the fierce Israeli attack, more than one martyr killed, aggression, focus on the concept of the role of the Israeli occupation and aggression, okay. Beware of repeating rumors by Israeli spokesmen, especially news that affects the home front. Beware of adopting the occupation narrative, deny it, doubt it, refute it. Beware of publishing pictures of missiles being launched from the city center, heading towards Israel, as this is a ready-made pretext to strike residential areas in Gaza Strip. I don't remember what this next one says. Do not publish or share photos or videos showing rocket launch sites for resistance movements in Gaza. For Facebook news page managers, do not post close-up photos of masked men armed with heavy weapons, lest your page be closed on the grounds of inciting violence. Focus your coverage on the following: the locally made shells launched by the resistance are a natural response to the occupation. So they're just kind of giving directions for narrative. Document the events and locations, old photos, archived image. No objection to publishing pictures of for women and children. Okay, interesting. And one more. Leave room for followers to tweet under your name. So, I'm just saying, it's in their interest to make sure that people shut the fuck up. That it's Shut the Fuck Up Friday about soldiers dying, okay? And again, for the 8 billionth time, I'm not doubting that Israel has been really tolerant of civilian collateral, okay? But you coming up to these conclusions before we've had any verification from within, you don't care because, again, nothing happens to you if you turn out to be wrong. Like, you'll be fine. And it's happened in the past. It's still acceptable in academia to quote the Goldstone report and say that the majority of police deaths in Cast Lead were civilian. It's still acceptable to do that. And it's been since 2008. Like, even Hamas disagrees with that. Fuck you. All right. Anyway. Okay. So.
And every other Western outlet had also obviously.
Hang on. Where's the other one? Oh, yeah. This is from the forum that Hamas used to use back in 2000s. Dear brothers, in line with the policy of struggling resistance factions in Gaza, we inform you that it is strictly forbidden to publish news about enemies, names, pictures, or any details about the martyrs and wounded of the resistance until the end of the Zionist aggression, with a clear victory for us and our nation. God willing, everything that touches on this topic will be deleted with a warning to its publisher. And again, if you're in Gaza, do what Hamas tells you, okay? Like, there's still videos of people getting their fucking legs broken because they crossed these guys. So I don't know why. Like, why are people so fucking horny to grab on to the first, like, figures they can get when we know, like, how much trial and error do we need to have? How much trial and error do you need to have to know that Hamas will do everything they can to hide these numbers until the war's over? And that they'll succeed in it. And that they'll convince human rights reports to follow it, to go through with it, to play into that strategy. And then afterwards, Randy Orton out of fucking nowhere, when Hezbollah finally gets their ceasefire, they say that they might have lost up to 4,000 people. It's like high. I think the Lebanese authorities have accounted for 3,800 dead so far. Like, I don't know why. When they say up to 4,000 people, I don't know if they're referring to maybe before the pager attack, because they'd already lost about 500 then. But there's already a slight suggestion there that they're claiming like most of the deaths. Which again, Lebanon's easier because civilians have the opportunity to run away. They were able to go north to towns that were not full of Hezbollah infrastructure. So I'm just saying, you can do whatever you want, Yogesh. And again, if it turns out to be that it wasn't 1 to 9 or whatever the fuck, like, nothing will happen to you. Nothing will happen. You'll probably repeat it anyway. Like, people still repeat that Israel massacred the fucking civilian traffic cops, donut munchers in Cast Lead. Like, that's still the go-to line. Yeah. And I think for that reason, I just don't think I'm going to talk that much about like all the speculation stuff anymore, because there's so much repercussion if you doubt something and you end up being wrong. I also noticed that in Cast Lead, when Hamas claimed responsibility, when they claimed that that a lot of those cops were soldiers, they conveniently didn't release that until right after the Goldstone report. Like, it's so tactical. But okay.
Arrived at that same conclusion early on.
Why is he so blurry? Oh, it's because he's been zoomed out by. Okay.
Morning. Why else? Why would they not arrive at that conclusion? It makes no fucking sense to be like, oh, this must have been a rocket misfire.
But they didn't. You were mad at them for not arriving at that conclusion. That's why you called the media stupid and racist.
Is there a fucking moment where Western media will be honest about this? Like, I know we are cruel here in the West. I know we have done so much. We've done so many awful things, like so many unconscionable things. But I really, really thought that there would be at least a little bit of clarity from the media.
Hasan has rewritten history to every news outlet agreed with him at the time. Not true. And that he had all these credible sources. Not true. He was just browsing Twitter.
Never cites his sources. Hasan only goes on Twitter. These are some of the most common things that you hear from people.
It's literally what happened. Go watch the stream. He does the same thing when I criticize him for promoting Russian propaganda.
As far as Ukrainian invasion, I've never been for invading Ukraine. All the NATO defenders have just so successful.
I don't get this, because annexing of Crimea is kind of like invading, isn't it? Like, he supports the annexation of Crimea, which is huge. Like, that's a really big move. Okay.
been like, nah, Hasan loves Russia. He has always been on board with Russia invading Ukraine. It's just not true.
I'm going to put this to bed once and for all. Hasan has never outright said that he supports the...
Do you plan on doing anything with the research table? Yeah, Gilad, I want to... Because analyzing previous wars is a lot easier. Like, you've got so much more information. I want to look at Protective Edge and just see who is more accurate there, I guess. Like, just see what different organizations said, see what claims were made before the war ended and compared to after. Yeah. But Protective Edge is a lot, man. Protective Edge is like... I think the IDF claim was at least 500 or 600 Hamas killed and 100 PIJ and 100 others. The total casualty rate was 2,000, yeah. So that would be quite difficult. That'll take some time. But I just want to see. I just want to see if there's any pattern. You know what, Yogesh? I actually think it was 1 to 100 right now. I think Israel have killed about 100 civilians for each soldier. So you're actually like a denier to me now. Because actually, if you look at the Air Wars report, it suggests 1 to like 160 or something. So actually, you're the Nazi.
Russian invasion, but he has routinely repeated Russian talking points about how Ukraine is full of Nazis. The whole country is on the verge of becoming Nazis.
The reason why a small amount of nationalist forces gaining prominence is additionally terrifying. It's like Tinder, okay? It can cause a wildfire of nationalism because it's already baked in to the attitudes of the commoner, okay? Every person already has like a predisposition towards nationalist tendencies. So the issue is when you start legitimizing the nationalist guys, boom, all of a sudden the country could turn fascist like that, okay?
He's still worrying about the blowback of the Azov battalion. Those 1,000 to 2,000 guys are going to lead to a Nazi surgence in Ukraine. Still weighing, you know, we've armed those guys pretty well. We've armed those guys pretty effectively for the last couple of years. And, you know, there's 1/3 Jews living in Ukraine. They're okay, I think. I don't think there's been any... Has there been any, like, pogroms and shit in the last 2 years by the Azov battalion? Have they gone rogue? Are they seizing control? That nationalist fervor? God, people get nationalist when they're invaded. That's crazy, chat. Unbelievable. Really? You're going to be like hand-wringing about nationalism, Hasan? What the fuck?
Okay.
He watches this clip and lies about its context.
Okay. Wait. This... He said... Wait.
Yogesh, can you admit that you are estimating the ratio now on Hamas's terms? Or get banned? That's this discussion is just a waste of time. Can you acknowledge that it's in Hamas's interest to disguise for as long as possible the number of militant casualties? It's in their incentive to hide that, to make it look like the majority of the deaths are like the overwhelming majority are civilians. Like, can you admit that? And can you admit that that you're making these calculations on their terms with the information that they're allowing you to have access to? No. Okay, go away then. Because that's exactly what happens. I'm not saying you can't make speculations. You can. But if you come out here saying it like it's fact, like you're just a liar, like fuck off. And don't browbeat other people with it. It's disgusting. All right, hang on. Hide user on this channel. Okay, bye-bye.
Dude, I can't...
What am I watching? This is Ukraine.
He watches this clip and lies about its context.
Okay. Wait. This... He said... Wait. Dude, I can't... Oh my God. Yeah, I'm right. This is me criticizing Vladimir Putin.
No, it's not. He does not mention Putin once. He says this like I can't go watch his video and prove I'm wrong. It's from him reacting to the Gravels Institute's video saying Ukraine is full of Nazis.
So fucking weird to be like, oh, dude, like this is unimportant. Oh, dude, it's like only a couple Nazis. Oh, dude, they get so triggered when you talk about the Nazis in Ukraine. And there's, oh, dude, there's only...
Oh, he's retconning. He's saying that he was that at the time, yeah, the people legitimizing Nazis was Putin by invading. Whereas in the actual video, he's saying that the West is legitimizing Nazis by helping Ukraine. Okay.
Couple Nazis, like who gives a fuck? Oh, dude, there's Nazis on the Russian side. Okay, we're not fucking training them. And we're not giving them guns.
It wasn't a criticism of Putin. It was a criticism of the United States and Ukraine for letting Azov fight.
The problem is that, Western forces have been beefing up otherwise a fucking very, very loud minority. Like a very, very loud minority of people who would normally be inconsequential, ruining the opportunity for Ukrainian leftists to even push back against the Ukrainian Nazis, which they normally would, because now everyone's fucking hyper-focused on, what Russia is doing and how to deal with that.
Not once did Hasan blame Putin.
Every fucking person already has like a predisposition towards nationalist tendencies. So the issue is when you start legitimizing the nationalist guys, boom, all of a sudden everyone can, the country could turn fascist like that, okay?
So no, he never blames or mentions Putin. It's the beginning of a pattern where he just says my video is out of context and then fabricates a reality that doesn't exist.
This is precisely what I was talking about. This is me saying Vladimir Putin's unjustifiable invasion of Ukraine will actually develop and grow the nationalist movement.
Such a liar. Oh my God. Oh no. Like, Willie Mack's not even a political commentator, bro. He's a fucking commentary dude.
That is the whole point. They're too stupid to understand.
He then pulls up a tweet he made on the day of the invasion saying that as if that absolves him of everything else, which is part of Hasan's strategy. Well, he will say every political position.
What did they had a parliamentary election in 2019. What did the right-wingers get? I guess these guys are all right-wing to Hasan, but the Nazis, we'll call them. What were they called? Svoboda, Right Sector? There are so many parties in Ukraine. Which one of these is the Nazi parties again? Svoboda, 2%. Where are the left-wingers that are going to push back against them? Libertarian? Okay, banned. Socialist Party of Ukraine? 1,900 votes. Uh-oh. Cringe. Right Sector, 0.4%. Heartland, 0.3%. Congress of Ukrainian Nationalists, well, they're obviously Nazis. Look at that triangle. 0.4%. Bro, these guys ain't shit. What? BadEmpanada won't stop showing clips of you talking. It looks really bad. You got to respond. I think it would be best to live debate him. Thank you. That's a very sincere LonerBox fan talking right there. Sorry. It's like, what I have to worry about now? It's a diminishing return. Like, oh wow, video number 8 accusing me of wanting to kill babies. Like, shit, what will happen? Bro, it's not doing shit. Like I said, if you take him seriously, you don't belong in my community. I don't want you, okay? I don't care.
Position once, and then retreat to it when he gets criticized for spouting Russian propaganda. Hasan was saying,
oh my God, you gotta respond. This looks so okay, dude.
All the way up through the war starting that it won't happen, but if it does, it's the West's fault.
Focusing on this topic right now, when Russia will imminently invade Ukraine, resulting in many civilian deaths, will lead a number of chatters to wonder if the war is at least partially justified. Okay, dude. This doesn't change the reality that, like, the fucking tensions have been rising as a consequence of the United States gearing up exactly in the same way that they did in Afghanistan, though. That's the point. The imminent invasion. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? To a certain degree, does Vladimir Putin want Ukraine? Maybe. Regardless of whether he wants it or not, he needs it as a buffer state. Exactly.
When the war started, Hasan repeated that NATO was the aggressor, validating Russian propaganda.
What the fuck are you saying? 2 days ago, you said NATO imperialism akin to Mexico joining Russia. That is the same still. NATO is still an aggressive, expansionist, imperialist force.
Jesus.
America saying that they're going to let Ukraine join, we have an open door policy, is bullshit. Because they were never actually going to allow Ukraine to join NATO, because if Russia invaded Ukraine as easily as it did just now, then it would be fucking...
What do you mean easily? Does he... Okay. These countries that are in NATO were begging to join NATO. They were adamant about joining NATO. Didn't Poland, like, threaten to interfere with an election to get into NATO? The American presidential campaign created a situation favorable to enlargement, because I think part of Bob Dole's campaign was to say that Clinton was dragging his heels, or dragging his feet. I don't remember what you call it. Am I wrong that they did threaten to back a different candidate, didn't they? They threatened to back Bob Dole. The decision to expand NATO was a cynical effort to attract votes from Poland. Even Russians saying that. Okay. Yeah. So it's not really that aggressive, isn't it? When you're literally, these countries are not only begging to join NATO, but are also threatening presidents to try and join NATO. Interesting.
World War III. Russia invading Ukraine like this is to show the rest of the world why Ukraine can't fucking join NATO.
He was saying that giving Ukraine munitions was pointless because they already have guns and that we should give Russia a favorable deal.
They have boots on the ground, and this guy's like, oh, we're going to give him guns. We'll give him more guns. Dude, they have guns, bro. They have guns. There is literally nothing you can do in this situation. Either you go to all-out war, which is impossible because Russia is a nuclear power, and that would mean nuclear holocaust, or you have to fucking suck it the up and get to the table with them and come to an agreement. This conflict does not get resolved without talking to Russia, without having Ukraine and Russia at the table and having a conversation and trying to put together an agreement that is going to be incredibly favorable to Russia.
He spewed off propaganda so regularly that he had to put text on the top of the screen that said Putin is bad, just to remind people he wasn't pro-Russia. Now suddenly you can't criticize Assad. He wrote it on the screen. He references this text as his defense to this day.
There are some other points. No, Hasan supports Russia. No, he doesn't. He also raised $200K for Ukraine. Hitler, which by the way, Vladimir Putin is bad. Look at the sign. Actually, sorry, I forgot we elevated that to Vladimir Putin is very bad.
The full context of this clip is Hasan addressing people for saying he's adopted the Hitler appeasement strategy.
If you've ever talked about any kind of like, oh, this is appeasement, Vladimir Putin's like Hitler, which by the way, Vladimir Putin is bad. Look at the sign. Actually, sorry, I forgot we elevated that to Vladimir Putin is very bad. From bad to very bad. Look at the sign. Then you have to go to war.
Fast forward to today, and Assad acts like he never owned these positions. Guys, I was just stating for a fact that Russia now does own Crimea.
Call Crimea? I call it a part of Russian territory, bitch. That's what I call Crimea. I call it Crimea River. Crimea is a part of Russian territory. It's just true. It is annexed by Russia.
He's lying about the...
Wait, what? Is that allowed now? I'm looking forward to the news of the day, right? I'm looking forward to the news of the day. Golan, it's part of Israel, bro. It's annexed. What? Okay.
The context of this clip too. It's him justifying the Russian annexation.
Like, I got fucking liberals schizo post.
Yeah, he doesn't want people to... I wonder if, like, these guys have a revolving door of a fan base. Like, if you can this flagrantly lie about what you were saying 2 years ago, maybe, like, all the old Hasan fans are gone and it's just a bunch of new ones now? And he's just allowed to do that? Or it's short memories, I guess, because viewers maybe don't retain as much. Strange.
Posting on the timeline about an inevitable invasion, okay? Like, just actual fucking land war in Ukraine. All of this stuff. And I was 100% right. And now, liberals who literally said, no, Russia is going to do this. Russia is going to do this. Russia is the bloodthirsty psychos at the door. What happened, dude?
He was so widely known for having these positions at the time that Dylan Burns, an actual on-the-ground journalist that was in Ukraine, would show everyday Ukrainians these videos and they'd respond to it.
Russia annexing its own territory that it's had, that its own territory full of its own people is not the same as NATO being like, we're going to turn your country into a base and put literal military bases and rockets into your country.
Most offensive thing, annex its own territory. Excuse me, what is Ukraine even? So this is the imperialist talk for supposedly anti-imperialist leftists who is like all about fighting colonialism and imperialism when only the West does it.
He's obviously not anti-imperialist, right? Because he
claims he is.
Well, he claims a lot of things, but he claims he cares about Ukrainian lives too, which I don't think is true.
Like that you say that they should secede territory to a fascist invasion.
It's not even secession of territory. It's like prior agreements that neither party has held on to. The real Ukrainian...
I'm sorry, we had prior agreements before Minsk.
Yeah, they had Budapest. They had obviously the Declaration of Independence and the vote, which all of Ukraine voted in favor of, including Crimea. It was still a majority of people in Crimea as well. Slightly smaller than the other regions, but no, a majority of people in Crimea voted for independence from the Soviet Union.
That's false equivalence. He's referring to agreements where it obviously benefited Russia more as the agreements that we should stick.
Pretty sure at this point there are more people in the Golan Heights who want to be part of Israel than want to be part of Syria because of the settlers. Like, that number is inflated by settlers. It's like, that's not a good argument though. That's a really bad argument. The fuck? Why would you do that? That's colonial.
To rather than the agreements that we had decades before that was fair on all accounts.
Hasan's response to this video was to lie, claim that it's out of context, say that it never happened.
Those of you said, chat, has he responded to Dylan Burns' post, by the way, before getting clapped? If you think that I would entertain such a psychotic thing ever in my life, I don't know what to tell you.
I was having actual Ukrainians engage with your arguments psychopathic. It's objectively good for the online conversation. He says that it's bad because they disagree with him.
There is nothing more perverted and psychopathic than literally putting Ukrainian people in Ukraine that are being bombed, okay, by an invading force that is unjustifiably occupying their country, making Ukrainians sit down and watch my clips out of fucking context in a way that you have framed it to have them go, oh, wow, how fucked up this guy.
Sound familiar? I repeat, the only person taking Hasan out of context is Hasan when he's defending himself. He does the same thing with his inbred comment.
I should go to the old city so I can get my fucking shit pushed in by some of the most inbred fundamentalist hicks.
No, it's not illegal.
That's
it's
you guys.
Just talking about Jews. Would it be wrong? Would this guy think that it was... he probably...
Wait, no, I'm talking about the ultra-Orthodox settlers. What the who would disagree with that? What do you mean? Like, he says, talking about Jews. Nice, dude.
If you go back to his stream on June 6th, Hasan is talking to Israeli chatter about visiting Israel.
Yeah, where is that chatter? He was like, come to Israel. It's so beautiful here. You will see the conflict from my eyes.
They do all talk like that. He's got that accent down.
Yeah. I should go to the old city so I can get my fucking shit pushed in by some of the most inbred fundamentalist hicks.
When he says the old city, I assume he means Jerusalem. Many Jews live there legally. I don't know. He never clarifies.
No, the old city's the annexed part, isn't it? Isn't that the old city's the annexed part? Is East Jerusalem? Is he wrong? Where did he get that? He put a source up.
He means Jerusalem. Many Jews live.
The old city of Jerusalem. Yeah, no, this is the annexed part. There's Old City and East Jerusalem. Yeah, but the Old City's in East Jerusalem, isn't it? It wasn't. Israel didn't have it before 1967. There were in the 48 War. There were like a few thousand Jews who were kicked out of the Old City. That's what they do with their absent property shit. They're like, oh, we're reclaiming the land. Like, yeah, fuck. That's why, like, Sheikh Jarrah wasn't Old City, but it was in the East. So no, they're not there. They're not technically there legally. They're there under Israeli law, but again, it's like the same thing. It's like annexed. So maybe according to Hasan, it is Israeli, but yeah, shit. I don't think you're gonna get your shit pushed in by a settler in the Jewish quarter, though. Jewish quarter is quite calm. The crazy settlers generally, I don't think they go to the Jewish quarter. They would go. The crazy ones go deep into the West Bank. Generally, they go to like Yitzhar, or they build one of the new ones. They go an outpost and shit.
Live there legally. I don't know. He never clarifies. Hasan does not clarify once that he meant only settlers. Then he calls Israel Nazi Germany and says if he goes there, he'll be executed.
Brother, I am not going to Nazi Germany, okay? I hope you understand this. And I mean this with all sincerity and with all disrespect. Brother, I'm not going to Israel so you can execute me, okay?
We're having a conversation about Israel in general. Am I supposed to read your mind that you meant settlers? Because you didn't say it. He's making up context that didn't exist in the conversation. I went on to point out Hasan's hypocrisy when defending China's invasion of Tibet for their inferior culture.
China's always taken more land.
With the
Tibet, Taiwan.
Tibet was literally a feudal slave mandate.
Words.
Autonomous zone. China did them a favor.
That was one. I mean, in America, when I say something like this, people get very...
Why does he think he'd be executed in Israel? I think when people like Hasan call Israel like Nazi Germany incarnate or something, they probably believe it because every piece of... That's what I mean. Like, people think it's okay to exaggerate bad things because like, oh, it's still bad. That's what they always do. Oh, it's still bad though. But if you do that for like 1,000 pieces of information, then yeah, you're fucked. Your entire impression of what's going on is fucked. So yeah, you would be a little bit retarded. Is what I'm trying to say. Sorry. I don't think with Hasan's online footprint, he maybe wouldn't even be allowed in Israel though. At this point, he would definitely go through the security guy, and then they interview him and ask him about why he's there and his content and shit. I know people like Abby, what's her name? Abby Martin. She went to Israel. I think for Hasan, they would probably interview him at security and just be like, mate, like, you're just here to try and destroy us with propaganda. Like, fuck off. I'd imagine that's what would happen. I don't think the issue with Tibet and the unification of China is that they got rid of the serfdom system that they had. The issue was more that what they did afterwards, where they murdered a shit ton of people and carried out effectively a cultural genocide and Hanification and shit. That's probably the issue with Tibet, but okay.
Very upset, we talk about the Dalai Lama saying suck my tongue or whatever, but that's not far from the norm in normal Tibetan existence before the Communist Party came in.
The same thing Asman said about Palestine. He says China's imperialism is good because they focus on taking over the
formerly enslaved Tibetan people working alongside the Maoist militias to liberate their own fucking non-autonomous region that has historically been on and off a part of the Chinese empire.
On and off is these words he's using. On and off is very tactical because they were like a de facto independent entity, you could say, for between 1912 and 56.
Is not saying that the Tibetan culture is inferior. What the are you talking about?
You're saying since they...
Okay. You're not allowed to read those things into Hasan.
Use feudalism that justifies China taking over the land, killing 82,000 people. 1.2 million since their occupation. 1 out of every 6 Tibetans. China then settled the land en masse, separating 1 million children from their parents, put them into Chinese state-run boarding schools in an attempt to quelch the culture. It's similar to Asman justifying Israel's attacks on Gaza, saying that they're religious fundamentalists that execute gay people.
Not supporting a group of people that would, kill a gay person or a trans person for existing. I'm not going to...
It's so funny when these people who generally lean really right wing, suddenly the only time they care about fucking gay people is when they're shitting on Muslims. Oh god. As long as you can use gays to shit on another minority, it's all right. Otherwise, we don't really talk about them that often.
Support that group of people in any context. These people would be the ones doing the genociding if they had the power.
Saying they're inferior, saying they're evil, to justify the death and destruction that befalls them is so horrifying.
Hasan never engages with the argument. He just downplays it like, oh yeah, China, yeah, they're not great.
The current Chinese rulership over Tibet is not exactly great. Slavery and feudalism is...
Was it ever great? Was it great during the Cultural Revolution? Am I missing something? When was it great? How many serfs in Tibet fought alongside the fucking Maoist forces? Okay. Oh, there's someone in chat. Tibetans aren't pro-slavery for fuck's sake. Oh no. That guy's getting banned.
Is not a fundamental part of...
Wait, what did he? Or is he talking about Gazans? Maybe you got mixed up. Okay.
Great. Slavery and feudalism is not a fundamental part of Tibetan culture.
I did not argue that slavery was culture. I said that doesn't justify China's...
No, but they fucked up Tibetan culture, like Buddhist culture in Tibet afterwards. Do you think all the fucking Maoist forces did was go into Tibet and slavery and that was it? Like, what the fuck? That's not what they did. Okay.
Takeover, settlement, and brutality of the people. Hasan doesn't engage with that and just repeats that I love slavery.
That's crazy, by the way. Slavery is not someone's culture, man. What the what are we talking about?
He compares the annexation of Tibet to the American Civil War.
And the example I used here was actually so fucking good. Not to, hype myself up, but it is directly the same as
He's so proud of this shit. Again, you're never going to find a historian saying this about fucking China and Tibet. Because Tibet was de facto independent. They hadn't agreed to be part of the Chinese Union like the fucking southern states had. Okay? They weren't trying to secede from a union that they were already part of. And as far as I know, I don't know that much about Reconstruction, but I don't think the end of the Civil War was followed by the brutal suppression of Southerners. Actually, they did the opposite. They let the Southerners get away with too much with fucking Jim Crow.
Tibet was its own independent country. It's not the same at all. But hey, high school level education here, owning the political pundits. It sounds impressive, but it's not. When I show the death toll from China's imperialism, BadEmpanada waffles about Asman, never getting to the point.
So Asmongold said that Palestinians deserve to be genocided because they have an inferior culture, because genocide is literally baked into their laws. That's
Hasan just gets up and leaves.
Tibet was a country that had slavery.
And with Hasan gone, BadEmpanada avoids all the points I was making and just repeats that I think slavery is good.
I do not give a shit about preserving the culture of like a tiny slave-owning elite anywhere in the world. Do you? I would hope not.
Again, no, but I don't think that justifies them being
But I thought slavery wasn't baked into Tibetan culture. Why did you have to crush everything else about Buddhist culture in Tibet? Why?
Systematically destroyed and settled. Okay. Just like how I don't like Hamas, but that doesn't mean I want all Palestinians to suffer. They laugh and act as if I didn't point out a real hypocritical view that Hasan has. Like I made no argument.
Why can you actually respond to him?
Wait, why doesn't he? You know what? BadEmpanada raised a good point. Why doesn't he ever actually counter anything I'm saying? If you, on the other hand, watch this and you were like, yeah, I don't really know about this Hasan guy. I kind of don't understand it. Maybe you would be like geared towards hating me, I guess. Not trolling, but I don't get the Tibet stance. If you're against imperialism, should you be against Chinese imperialism? Okay, we'll.
Slavery in Palestine. Open chattel slavery existed in the region of Palestine until the 20th century. The slave trade to the Ottoman Empire officially stopped in the 1870s. Okay. Pretty sure, this wasn't the case during the Mandate, though, or even before the Mandate. I think just before the Mandate, you had like these tenant farmers and shit. Like, I guess they were kind of like serfs in a sense, but yeah, I don't think the British Mandate was about slavery. Okay, sorry. There's a little picture. Jesus. It's pretty on the nose.
We'll get back to the Tibet issue in a little bit, okay, please.
Meanwhile, Hasan's still arguing with his chat about my Tibet point. Your audience seemed to think it was a pretty good point, so much so that he gets right on the edge of agreeing with me.
That's crazy, by the way. Like, slavery is not someone's culture, man. What the Like, what are we talking about?
It's a bit of a straw man, but okay. Oh, it's because when people talk about destruction of Tibetan culture, I don't think Hasan has any idea what's being said there. Like, I don't think he knows anything about the Cultural Revolution or the suppression of minorities and Hanification. I don't think he knows about any of that, but okay.
The Tibet take is unacceptable. You can't ignore the forced Hanification of the Tibetan people, same as Xinjiang. Hundreds of thousands of people were forcibly displaced. Tibetans have a right to self-determination. British also used the caste in India as a justification for the empire.
True. Hasan does sound like a British person trying to justify imperialism in India because of the caste system.
No, you're misunderstanding my position.
Okay,
the continued Hanification is unacceptable. These two things can be true at the same time.
If the occupation...
Okay. Hang on. Let's learn this like right now, okay? I just want to see how long it takes to learn. Was there like a gap? Was there like they end slavery or whatever fucking serfdom it was in Tibet? They end that. Everyone's bouncing about it. And then there's a gap. And then the bad things start happening. Is that what happened? Let's figure it out. And let's go to Twitter. No, hang on. If he knows about Hanification, though, then he should know why it's not the same as the Civil War. Because post-American Civil War, you had like the Reconstruction. You didn't have the same shit that happened in Tibet. Okay, let's get the rough timeline first of all. Because Tibet's de facto independent around 1912. Okay. They assert independence, rebuffing attempts by Britain and China to establish control. Okay, we know this. Mao founds the People's Republic of China, threatens Tibet with, quote, liberation. Okay. China enforces a long-held claim to Tibet. Dalai Lama becomes head of state when he's 15. Cringe. Tibetan leaders are forced to sign a treaty dictated by China. The treaty, known as the 17-Point Agreement, professes to guarantee Tibetan autonomy and to respect the Buddhist religion, but also allows the establishment of Chinese civil and military headquarters at Lhasa. Okay. Mounting resentment against Chinese rule leads to outbreaks of armed resistance. Interesting. Curious. Dalai Lama visits Beijing for talks with Mao. China fails to honor the 17-Point Agreement. Full-scale uprising breaks out. Thousands are said to have died during the suppression. Dalai Lama and most of his ministers flee to northern India. So you got 80,000 people fleeing. 63 foreign visitors are banned. Okay. Region established by the Chinese government. The Cultural Revolution is 1966. Okay, so we're like about barely a decade on. Okay. Destruction of a large number of monasteries and cultural artifacts. Oh no. Some easing of repression in the 70s. Martial law in the 80s. Yeah, this is like a brutal occupation. And suppression of culture, not slavery, because that's not Tibetan culture, but like Buddhist culture. Okay. Interesting.
Hanification of Tibet is wrong, then why don't you criticize China the same way as Israel? They never engaged with that point because if he did, he'd have to acknowledge that my America bad criticism of him holds some weight. Instead, just say I'm pro-genocide. That'll do it.
Whoa.
I don't understand how you could be pro-Palestine and then support Russia and China. Israel's neighbors with Gaza. Does that make what they're doing okay? No, of course not.
Do you think it's okay? Have you ever made a video denouncing it? It seems like instead of actually denouncing it, you just attack people who are against it.
Yes, almost academic. Just ask the question rhetorically, but then also ask it like like you've already made up your mind. Okay, good. I love it. The BadEmpanada process.
I wonder why that is. I wonder why you are so extremely laser focused on that. It's almost like
you don't like us for lying, therefore you must hate all the Palestinians. Banger.
That my America bad criticism of him holds some weight. Instead, just say I'm pro-genocide. That'll do it. I don't understand how you could be pro-Palestine and then support Russia and China. Israel's neighbors with Gaza. Does that make what they're doing okay? No, of course.
Yeah. He said no, of course not. Okay.
Not.
Do you think it's okay? Have you ever made a video denouncing it? It seems like
this guy is actually mentally ill. He's really, or he just weaponizes it. Like he just knows he's lying and does it anyway because he's got an audience that will just gobble all of it. He literally just said it's not okay. You fucking moron. You stupid, dense cunt. Like, what the fuck?
I don't understand how you could be pro-Palestine and then support Russia and China. Israel's neighbors with Gaza. Does that make what they're doing okay? No, of course not.
No, of course not. Okay, he said no, of course not. Okay, his head is still attached to his body. His eyes are open. Okay. Maybe he's in like a fugue state.
Do you think it's okay? Okay. Have you ever made a video denouncing it? It seems like instead of actually denouncing it, you just attack people who are against it. I wonder why that is. I wonder why you are so extremely laser focused on that. It's almost like you support the genocide.
Oh, it's all about, okay, that's the process.
To say so.
It's true. Israel was about to stop the war and then they watched my YouTube videos. Hasan's nodding. Hasan repeated a very similar sentiment when Muda called him out. You can't criticize Hasan because he criticizes Israel.
I will never forget.
And you guys are like, oh, why don't you react to BadEmpanada? Bro, he does it to himself, okay? If your IQ is higher than 60, he will be on a stream commenting on me, attacking me, but in there, he will basically say some version of, yeah, I'm kind of mental and you probably shouldn't take me seriously. He'll just do that. He'll just say that. Like he just did that there. If you're watching this reaction,
extremely people who are
like
against
you don't need to defend yourself against this. Like he does it for you.
Say I'm pro-genocide. That'll do it. I don't understand how you could be pro-Palestine and then support Russia and China. Israel's neighbors with Gaza. Does that make what they're doing okay? No, of course not.
No, of course not.
Do you think it's okay? Have you ever made a video denouncing it? It seems
just saying, like this is like you guys can't understand the Australian accent, but this is him saying, I'm a fucking liar. Okay, yeah.
Instead of actually denouncing it, you just attack people who are against it. I wonder why that is. I wonder why you are so extremely laser focused on that. It's almost like you support the genocide and you're too fucking cowardly to say so.
It's true. Israel was about to stop the war and then they watched my YouTube videos. Hasan's nodding. Hasan repeated a very similar sentiment when Muda called him out. You can't criticize Hasan because he criticizes Israel.
I will never forget these monstrous pieces of for looking at a situation like the one happening, the one unfolding in Gaza, and choosing to never say anything about it, only to then make these drama videos to call out the people who call out the Israeli government. It is disgusting.
What, you're allowed to lie, slander people, and make up your own misinformation just because you criticize Israel?
Yeah.
Who's buying this?
Like I said, it's not about disinformation. It's not about that. It's not about being correct or not. It's just you're on our side or you're against us. Yeah.
There are tons of creators who talk about Palestine that I don't criticize. You were the only one who was this bad at covering the news. If Hasan was pro-Israel, I guarantee I could make the exact same videos. I criticized Hasan on buddying up with a terrorist rather than asking real questions. They're just like One Piece.
We think the Houthis Ansar Allah is doing what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
One of his viewers would point this out and Hasan would tell him to shut up.
Maybe explain why you're trying to get this type of humanizing information from. Okay, shut up, chatter. Come on, it's not like that's crazy. What does he have to say to dumbass?
What was the
what Luffy would do. You should tell him that.
One of his viewers would point this out and Hasan would tell him to shut up.
Maybe explain why you're trying to get this type of humanizing information from. Okay, shut up, chatter. Come on, it's not like that's crazy. What does he have to say to dumbass? Yeah. Why am I humanizing? Why am I humanizing a 19-year-old who's only known genocide his entire life?
No, bro. Why are you greenlighting the Houthis' mission and comparing it to One Piece while ignoring proper questions so you could ask about KFC?
Ask him if he would stop going on bows if Israel stops the genocide. I mean, yeah, he's gonna say yes, chat. What are you talking about? Those are like...
Wait, What was the question there was ask him if he would stop going on boats if Israel stops genocide. What's wrong with that question? Is it not worth asking them? Okay, let's say if Israel stopped fighting, but Hamas kept fighting. Would you be okay with that? Would you still support that? Like, because we know that if he's a Houthi supporter, and the way this guy talks, the answer is yes. Because this guy puts out fucking tweets of Zionists getting impaled on spikes. That's why they're doing it. It's about helping Hamas. It's not about creating peace in the region. It's about saving Hamas. So they can try again. So they can build up again and try again. Like they said they would.
Ask him if he would stop going on boats if Israel stops the genocide. I mean, yeah, he's gonna say yes, chat. What are you talking about? Those are like dumbass questions. Has he ever had like Western food? Oh, they do have KFC in Yemen?
I wonder if it's like, I feel like it's off.
They're like, why would he ask that?
Ask him if he would stop going on boats if Israel stops the genocide. I mean, yeah, he's gonna say yes, chat.
They've already said that. That's why the blockade is being carried out.
Yes, the Houthis as an organization said that. Rashid did not because he wasn't asked. It would still be a good...
I thought he wasn't a Houthi. What?
...formality to get his position on that. Instead, they act like Hasan never thought he was a Houthi.
If you think a 19-year-old from Yemen is in the cut and is like inside of the inner workings of the Ansar Allah movement, I don't know what to tell you. You're a idiot. You know what I mean? It's like interrogating your 19-year-old.
If I remember correctly, to the south, it was all about slavery, and it only became a priority a couple of years in for the north. Thanks for the $5. Appreciate it. Okay.
Old cousin about what Trump is going to do next.
I want to go through this one more time because I now have the full story. Before the interview, Hasan thought Rashid was a Houthi.
Bro, are we about to have a Houthi rebel on stream? Yes, brother. What do you mean? Excuse me? Of course I'm about to have a... I'm a journalist, okay? This is journalism.
During the interview, Hasan asked if he was a Houthi, but Rashid gave him an indirect answer. In fact, Rashid gave the same indirect answer so many times, Hasan speculated that he was media trained.
I don't know if he is allowed to speak on this. I don't know if he's like actually a part of the groups at all, or just like simply a TikToker. You know what I mean? I don't know how to ask that in the best way possible, though.
Yeah, I feel like we can ask it pretty directly. His answer is he's a Yemeni who stands with Palestine.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I don't know. I feel like he's very media trained, surprisingly, but okay.
And after the interview was over, Hasan still thought he interviewed a terrorist, defending himself by saying CNN interviews terrorists all the time.
Even if you don't agree with him, there is genuine value in understanding what his worldview is, where he's coming from, why he's doing the shit that he's doing. If you don't want to understand that, you're just intellectually an incurious person, okay? And many people are genuinely intellectually incurious people. CNN literally fucking gets to interview Taliban leaders and even members of Al-Qaeda, which these guys are not like at all, for the record. I am just mentioning that specifically to show you that like this is what the job of like media is supposed to be.
LSF talked about how Hasan interviewed a terrorist and he acknowledged even my haters gotta think it's awesome.
Look at this. Top of LSF. Hasan is currently live streaming with an actual Houthi terrorist according to the US government. That's awesome. Keep fucking LARPing. At least even my haters gotta fucking actually recognize that it's fascinating to be able to do that.
Hasan was getting a lot of heat for the interview. It wasn't until a chatter defended him that Hasan considered that Rashid might not be Houthi.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even know if he's a Houthi or not personally. Like, he didn't say any of that shit. He just said he's a teenager in Yemen.
They have since completely recontextualized the entire interview. Rashid wasn't talking about hostages. He was talking about a TikTok video he saw.
First of all, this dude, Rashid, there's no evidence that he actually linked up with any captain whatsoever, especially considering that he's saying the captain is Chinese. There is no Chinese captain. What we found out was that there's an older video that he probably saw that he was talking about where I don't even know if it's from Yemen or not, where they're like, you know, a bunch of captain, I think a Bulgarian captain's like chewing cot or something. I think this was the OG video. Yeah, it was this video. Yeah. It's from literally March 27th, 2022.
Before the ship was ever captured. Why would Rashid be talking about this video? It was translated that poorly. Was this guy just riffing? But even if it was interpreted and translated as if he was talking about the hostages, and Hasan was pogging out.
Does he know what has happened to any of the crews? Like, I heard they tried cat. Having a good time? Are they okay?
He's saying
okay, I've covered this pirate stuff too much. Pirate Anne? Slander? Criticism? Okay. Fuck the pirate story.
One thing I didn't expect was Hasan to die on the hill that he is Anne Frank, and that Anne Frank should have joined the Houthis. I remember Anne Frank being part of a militia group that boarded commercial vessels and took cap.
So if Anne Frank was a part of the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, do you think that it would be invalid if I had the capacity to talk to someone who participated in the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, do you feel like that would be inappropriate?
The Warsaw Ghetto Uprising directly fought the Nazis. This is like saying Anne Frank should have raided Chinese vessels going to Portugal. It makes no sense. Taking Filipino crews hostage, I would not support this.
No, the only difference here is that you think brown man bad, brown man terrorist. No, this guy is just, he doesn't know anything. He doesn't understand anything. It is shocking.
He makes the world's dumbest comparison and then calls me racist and stupid. It's everything I've criticized them for over the past year. They get to the part where Rashid says he was a soldier, and they're stunned, and BadEmpanada brings up how he was a soldier.
What does it mean if he's a soldier anyway? Let's say that he was a soldier. By the way, Helicline said that she was a soldier. So, okay, let's say that he said that he was a soldier. Could you explain how that makes him a terrorist exactly?
1, Helicline was part of the IDF. That's irrefutable. What's your point there? And 2, the effective governing body in Yemen is the Houthi. So if he's a soldier, yes, that would mean he's a terrorist. I go through all of his anti-Semitic tweets and they rationalize it.
It bears no basis. Again, the leader of the Houthis uttered a slogan during the Second Intifada when he watched a famous video of a Palestinian child dying in front of his father. Like, most people know nothing and don't care about contextualizing anything. Of course, it is anti-Semitic, but contextualizing it matters. Yeah. People, I think it's like Nicholas Fuentes. You know what I mean? Like they think that like they got a copy of the Elders of Zion and ran along with it.
What's funny is right after Hasan said this, LonerBox would point out that the Houthis do quote the Elders of Zion in their sermon. The Elders of Zion being fabricated documents about Jews taking over the world. Here's LonerBox explaining.
No, it's actually almost exactly in part because they take influence from the protocols of the Elders of Zion. Hasan doesn't know that, obviously, or if he does, he's lying about it. When it comes to the Houthis, I'm pretty sure the Houthis have an exact quote of it. This was the only one I found in the magazine after looking for but it's like 2,000 pages, and you can't like control F it because it's all in Arabic, so it's like quite difficult to find it. But yeah, there's at least one reference in there that I found after digging for a couple of minutes, but there'll be more. Like they Hezbollah would air. On their Al-Manar station, they would air this kind of like TV series every now and then that was basically, it presents itself as based on historical facts, but it's actually based on the protocols. Yeah. It's not unusual. Even secular leaders like Nasser would support, reference the protocols. One of the sermons. It's so funny that Hasan just opens himself up, like sets himself up to these things. This is one of the passages on the Jews from one of Al-Houthis' sermons. The Jews know the effect of faith when there is faith in the nation, and they know that if it is established, they were aware of turning us into infants. Wasn't there an Egyptian TV show based on the protocols? There was also a Syrian one. Yeah. Oh, we're doing this? Okay. They did not want us to be Jews. They said in their documents, called the Protocols of the Elders of Zion, that they did not want Muslims or Christians to be Jews.
Why is he trying to bring this up to dunk on me when he clearly doesn't know? It is a classic Hasan moment.
For a Palestinian to arrive at...
It's because he thinks like the Houthis really do this because they're motivated by empathy for the fellow Arab, which is also why they supported Assad for fucking 15 years. Yeah, that probably makes sense, right? The axis.
Anti-Semitic opinions. They just see a Star of David on the side of the F-15 that bombs the school, and they're like, oh my God, I hate whoever is doing this to me.
Rashid's not Palestinian, but I still want to engage. I totally understand how that would make someone anti-Semitic. Just like how I understand how someone from Ukraine may hate all Russians. But also, I don't think it's worth the effort rationalizing his post about spiking Jews or shooting them.
All that you can imagine is fighting for like the destruction of the social order, so that people are driven to work for Grubhub and deliver you Big Macs for cheaper than they did before. You literally cannot believe that someone would say,
was that him downplaying the impact of the blockade and assuming that it only affected Westerners? Because apparently only Western vessels and Western shipping goes through the Red Sea. It's fucking retard. Okay.
I'm ready to sacrifice myself to fight for a cause bigger than mine, like, you know, against the fucking genocide. To you, this is like self-evident.
And that's why the Houthis support Assad. Yes, that's exactly why. Yes, because they hate it when Arabs get killed by brutal dictators. Yeah. So true, Queen.
Bad. To a sane human, It is the opposite.
Since this video, Rashid has tweeted out Israel getting nuked, but it's saying, according to BadEmpanada, a righteous cause that's bigger than himself. Finally, I make the argument that most Jews are Zionist, and all Zionists are people who believe Israel should exist as a Jewish state. So when you defend a guy who's saying he's going to spike, shoot, and nuke what 90% of Jews believe, it comes off as anti-Semitic. Hasan responds with Zionism means many different things to many different people, and that it means you support the war in Gaza.
Wait, that is 90% status Jewish Israelis? Yes. And even for them, Zionism means something entirely different for many. There are large majorities of Jewish Israelis who are in agreement with the military campaign in Gaza. I am diametrically opposed to that, and I think that that is wrong. And I also personally don't think that that has anything to do with Judaism whatsoever.
I never said that.
What is it about to do with Judaism? That's not, we're talking about Zionism, okay? Why do people do it? Every time they do that, every time they talk about Judaism, like the religion of Judaism, they have no idea what they're talking about. They probably think like the only reason Zionists went to Israel was because they read it in a book. Like,
the war had to do with Judaism,
so
but
naive.
Israel existing, Zionism does for most Jews. Hasan doesn't engage, and he just calls me anti-Semitic.
I think it's ridiculous to claim that all Jews actually love that shit, and it's actually unimaginably anti-Semitic, according to the IHRA definitions too, by the way.
This guy just lies and doesn't engage with my video the whole time, and then he calls my video slop.
It's perfectly packaged drama slop. It takes 1 second to lie about a person, especially when there is an overwhelming amount.
Yeah.
Especially when there's an overwhelming amount of social conditioning geared in one way.
God, the projection. Okay.
And it takes an hour to fucking break.
That source annoys me. It says Israelis. Yeah, he shouldn't have used that. It's true of Western Jews as well, though. I mean, I can go through the polling from Jews in France, the UK, Australia, America, Canada. Do people deny that? Do people deny that most Jews in most of these countries still have a sense of sympathy for the state of Israel? Even when they try to use even when they try to use arguments against it, it doesn't work. Like, the Middle East Eye, in this headline that tried to say that a third of American Jewish teens said they sympathize with Hamas. Well, what does that mean? Like, I sympathize with Hamas to some degree. Like, I understand why people join the organization. But that's not, apparently, according to these Jewish teens, that's not mutually exclusive with considering yourself to be a Zionist. 62% of American Jewish teens consider themselves to be Zionists, while 84% said Israel has the right to exist as a Jewish state. This is teens. This was the Israeli government that did this data. And Middle East Eye was willing to report on it. This was aged 14 to 18.
Down exactly why this is wrong.
Bro, that's me. You sit there and lie and bring zero receipts. I have to spend hours rewatching the content. He truly is a top-tier propagandist.
I'm a weirdo. Yeah, I'm a weirdo. People looking at me crazy. I don't care though.
I want to talk about something called the Hasan. The Hasan is when somebody doesn't engage with you honestly and they just call you a racist or a Nazi, or my favorite, just blames destiny. A creator named Adam something criticized the Gravel Institute for making Russian propaganda. In response, the Gravel Institute deleted their video. Hasan really liked that video. Hasan, before even watching Adam's video, would call him a Nazi.
Adam something posted a 40-minute video about how Gravel lies about Azov, so a bunch of Euro sock dems might come in here being fucking annoying. Dude, I'm sorry to say this, but, you know, Europeans and being secret crypto neo-Nazis goes hand in hand sometimes, okay? Europe and pro-NATO Europeans being a fan of Nazis or running defense for Nazis is not exactly news to me, okay? Holy shit.
Adam responded to Hasan, calling him stupid. Hasan then claims Adam can only come to that conclusion if he's racist.
Hasan didn't mean to insult me. He simply reached the narrow limits of his understanding of the world. Dude, I can't do this. The narrow limits. Yeah, dude. Just fucking say I'm a Turk roach with a cockroach brain and move on, okay? Yeah. I'm saying it, dude, okay?
I'm saying
this
dude. I'm calling you a racist, even though it didn't take any fucking, even though it took no persuasion at all, but okay.
Not exactly out of the alt-right pipeline, okay? Straight up, dude.
Muda criticizes Hasan for pointing out over a terrorist propaganda video, so he implies that Muda is a self-hating Muslim.
Mudahar especially runs with a very weird crowd. And not only does he run with a very weird crowd, he has time and time again tugged on the Hasan heartstrings over and over again with all the other weirdos that he aligns with,
obviously,
and has actively played a role in the we should get Twitch banned, or we should get Hasan deplatformed train. Extra weird considering that he, went to the Hajj. Did the Hajj, went to the Mecca.
No proof that anybody Muda hangs with hates Muslims, just plays a dumb Uncle Tom and move on. That's the Hasan. Nicholas Diorio points out Twitch's inconsistency with enforcing their policies.
They're not people who give a fuck about Angie content. Like, didn't this guy literally used to have like a fucking straight up Nazi program?
He just made up all of that. A website comes out called Twitch or Terrorist, showing how Twitch streamers repeat terrorist talking points. Hasan calls it Islamophobic. How? It has to do with the words you say, not your religion. Nobody could answer me. Hasan blocked me, but then Philly D put me in his video, so he had to respond. He just repeats that it's 2003 again over and over. No real answer.
These are literally 2003. We're back in 2003. These are the most 2003 ass.
JXE criticizes his son for leaving a video playing while he goes to the bathroom. Well, that means Jay's a Nazi.
This is what I said 1 year ago. Since then, he made a video, or they made a video. Afterwards, they had like a bunch of fucking Nazis on the kill stream get together and do an 8-hour reaction to my entire stream.
Ethan claims that Hasan harbors anti-Semitism in his audience. Well, he must be compromised by destiny.
And this has been ongoing for the past year because that community, Boner Chelly's community, is way more predisposed with making a mockery and presenting a false narrative surrounding one of the loudest voices that is pro-Palestinian emancipation than the actual genocide.
Stop hiding behind the bodies of Palestinians to avoid criticism. It's gross. Hasan gets criticized for glazing a guy that he thought was a terrorist. He goes, well, Destiny did it, so why can't I?
Yeah, dude, I know a lot of you would probably much prefer, all of my naysayers would much prefer me having chicken and waffles with a fucking neo-Nazi who is like infinitely more damaging to American politics and also just the world in general. But guess what, dude? I think this is infinitely more valuable, even if you don't agree with his framework, with his perspective.
We didn't get to learn his perspective because your interview was so bad. Nobody is saying you can't interview a Houthi. They're criticizing how you did it. Destiny asked Nick challenging questions and did not endorse anything he stood for. You compared the Houthi movement to happy cartoon pirates. If Destiny called Nick Fuentes Captain America, I would have a problem with that too. Everyone's a Nazi, everyone's racist, everyone's Destiny.
It's okay when it's in a three-way. It's not okay when it's in a three-way.
I also was sent this video, Willy Mac Show, whitewashing genocide. And I'm already doing this, so why not? The video opens up saying I lie about war crimes.
This video will expose how Willy Mac uses his YouTube channel to...
Who's this? Who are these people making these response videos?
Lie about Gaza, Israeli war crimes, and Zionism.
He defends Hasan, misreporting the Al-Ahi hospital bombing.
Despite what Willy Mac might want to claim, Hasan had every right to not trust Western reporting at the time because they...
Because what? Because Western reporting was getting all their claims from Hamas. What? Come on. Fuck you. All right.
To claim Hasan had every right to not trust Western reporting at the time because they had a track record of covering up Israeli war crimes. And just to give an example, immediately after October 7, news broadcasters like the BBC were caught out for describing Israeli casualties as killed, while Palestinians murdered by Israel in cold blood were simply described as deaths.
I don't agree with that, but why would that justify Hasan making up his own story? Hasan was literally making up his own missile analysis.
I do not know if there's like a deployment, like an activation, that Israeli munitions have that can detonate way before it impacts the ground.
Is he talking about the Iron Dome? Iron Dome interceptors, yeah, they do. So if they fail to intercept, they will self-destruct, like on their way down. So that's why you don't get Iron Dome. Like when the Iron Dome munition lands, it's just the casing that just goes, like just lands. They're still quite big. Like they can hurt you. They can probably kill you if they're direct hit on the head. They're like that big sometimes, like a few feet long. But I think there's only ever been one video of an Iron Dome interceptor that just landed without self-destructing and then it just exploded. And it was quite a small explosion. I wonder if I can find it. Was this it? It was 2023, was it? Iron Dome interceptor falls on Israeli city instead of hitting Hamas rockets. This is the one example I think of it failing. I think this is the explosion, right? If I remember correctly. It's not even that big an explosion. Might be bigger. You can't really see it from the buildings. But as far as I know, this is the only time when it's actually done like an explosion when it lands. Usually it's just the casing that lands. Or the shell, would you call it? So that's apparently what also did the Al-Ahi explosion? Okay.
And if that is the case, then, you know, it's still on the side of... I still believe that it's most likely an IDF airstrike.
Who is this helping? What good is it adding to the conversation? Let's not act like this can't be critiqued.
Hasan had
It's a filtering system. It, like, these guys work in a way that the more extreme their claims get, they kind of have like a filter, like a moron filter, that you basically just see what you can get away with, so that all the smart people leave. And when I say smart, I mean like everyone with an IQ over 70, like they leave. And everyone else stays. So you've got your loyal band of ignorant fucking shitheads.
Every right to doubt media reports about the Al-Ahi hospital, considering their track record before and even with hindsight today. And for Willy Mac to cry over Hasan coming to his own conclusions is honestly baffling to me.
He then implies that this news outlet isn't trustworthy because they pointed out that the only source of information on this is from Hamas.
I love that they keep saying Hamas-run health ministry, like it's not the fucking health ministry.
But it is run by Hamas. Should they lie?
Well, it seems like Willy Mac didn't even do his own homework, because the article that he showed on screen, it later had Human Rights Watch disprove everything that he claims about the Gaza Health Ministry. We have been monitoring human rights abuses in the Gaza Strip for 3 decades, including several rounds of hostilities. We've generally found the data that comes out of the Ministry of Health to be reliable.
Generally, first of all, yeah, that's why this is we're talking about one particular incident with the Al-Ahi explosion. Just because the health ministry has generally been trustworthy in the past doesn't mean they're still Hamas controlled, which means that wouldn't be difficult for a Hamas guy to go to one of their spokespersons and be like, you need to say this instead. Okay.
At that point in time, there were conflicting reports, so the proper thing to do is to wait for more information. Also, Hasan was the one disagreeing with the Hamas-run health ministry.
This is about casualty figures. This isn't about the Al-Ahi strike in particular. This is about general casualty figures.
He said their casualty numbers were too low.
Date from 8 minutes ago. Between 200 and 300 people killed in Gaza hospital airstrike according to Hamas-run health ministry from 1 hour ago. Wait, what? No, the number is like 800 now.
He's doing the Hasan where he's saying Israel did the bombing despite most third-party investigations saying otherwise. What makes you an expert?
That Hasan had every right to be skeptical about whatever Western media or the Israelis claimed, because whether Willy Mac wants to acknowledge it or not, Israel is the aggressor in this entire conflict, not just in Gaza, but in the past 75 years.
If Hasan wants to be skeptical, that's fine, but him saying it 100% for a fact happened and you're a genocidal freak for believing the experts...
You genocidal scumbag!
That is ridiculous and criticizable. There's tons of things to criticize Israel for. Why hinge on this one? He goes after me for saying most Jews are Zionists.
He's suggesting that because 90% of Israeli Jews are Zionists, therefore most Zionists are Jews. But the article only shows that most Israeli Jews support Zionism, not Jews globally. And what's funny...
So why don't you show us the data from global Jews then? Surely, if you want to really get Willy Mac up against the wall, metaphorically, I can link these in chat if you want to torture test them, but... So, Jews 2020, including young ones, it seemed... 8 in 10 Jews say caring about Israel is an important or essential part of what being Jewish means to them. Okay, that's US Jews, essential or important but not essential. Net 45-37 to only 16 saying not important. Okay. This is from February, so this is quite after February 2024. This is most Jews from every age demographic saying that they thought that Israel's response to Hamas's October 7th attack was acceptable, including 18 to 34. Okay. Reasons for fighting Hamas are valid. Even 78% of youths. Okay, that's America. So, okay, American Jews are pretty pro-Zionist. Okay. UK 2024, 63% of Jewish respondents self-identified as Zionist. It used to be higher, 72%. Okay. Australia, 69% identify as Zionist. Unlike in other countries, the highest identification level was 18 to 29. So actually, the calling themselves Zionists is not the same as being Zionists. Okay. I don't know what else you want to do. Do you want to ask them, like, with a specific definition? What's important for your Jewish identity? Russian Jews, 61% supporting Israel. Okay. Canada, 70% of Jewish respondents in the 2024 survey said they are very or somewhat emotionally attached to Israel. Okay. France seems to be the lowest. 53% said a thriving state of Israel was vital in the long term for the future of the Jewish people. But it's still a big gap between yes and no, with others saying no opinion. I'm probably going to say most Jews in the world are Zionists. I don't know, because like just under half of them are in Israel, and obviously like 90+% of them are Zionists. I've never seen anyone show data contrary to this, but they can try.
Is that according to a survey by Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs,
hey, we just looked at this one,
that not only does a third of American Jewish teens sympathize with Hamas, but 2/3 of Jewish teens in America.
Now scroll down, just scroll down one page. Come on, can you do it? You can sympathize with Palestinian people and still be a Zionist, you fucking moron. Who is this guy? Like, what?
Support the Palestinian cause. While many of these Jews that were interviewed also support Zionism, as what the article later mentioned.
84%.
What? Okay, so they learned this on the spot. Okay.
Think Israel have the right to exist as a Jewish state. That is Zionism. I was 6% off on my American teenager demographic. My bad. Jewish people sympathizing with Palestinians is not mutually exclusive with them being a Zionist. Both can happen. He ends the video making a good criticism of me for
I want to see how Sam responds to that particular sentence. That's a good sentence.
Going after Hasan, laughing at Jewish soccer fans who got beat up.
Children, for the children!
What the fuck? What is happening?
Israeli fans are not innocent. They were chanting threats to Arabs, being racist.
They were hooligans who chanted racist slogans such as "Let the IDF win" and "F the Arabs," and there are no schools in Gaza as there are no children in Gaza.
Papa Gut also made this criticism.
I mean, if the story is that there's any group of people that are disrupting like some kind of we'll say prayer circle that mourns the death of children, whatever people did that deserve to be made fun of, no?
If they get their ass beat for being racist and hateful, they deserve it. It was a stupid argument from me, and I don't stand by it. I will remove that section from the video once this is uploaded.
And when one creator isn't afraid of saying the uncomfortable truth, standing up to people who defend war crimes, the other manipulates hundreds or thousands.
Did you see the latest court document? Or what do you mean court? The Amsterdam, pre-planned by who? By the Israeli fans or by the... My recollection is that there were some of those taxi drivers who were sharing in WhatsApp groups, sharing locations, saying to like go and get the Jews or some shit, right? I thought the fighting wasn't actually between the Israeli fans and the Ajax fans. I thought it was between Israeli fans and like rioters who were not part of the football. Is that not true?
Of people to believe otherwise.
Where do I defend a single war crime? I condemn it. I condemn Israel's crimes. Bro, you need a break from the internet if you think critiquing Hasan is the same thing as defending Israel.
I don't know why.
Not the whole truth.
Like shit. I will not.
Yeah, I didn't cover that because it's like it's so hard to distinguish it from football violence.
I want to touch on some things that I found funny. Hasan always cries that people are taking him out of context.
Over the course of an 8-hour broadcast, if you look to literally 3 moments,
how come nobody else shut up as much as you, dude? That does 8-hour broadcast.
Because no one has the most psychopathic fandom like idiots like you.
But he does the same thing to everyone else. He doesn't react to my video. He watches BadEmpanada reacting to it. He doesn't react to Ethan. He watches a Twitter clip or a critical video of Ethan.
Election, which was perhaps a little bit.
Yeah, there's an Arab taxi driver who was attacked by Israeli hooligans, and then in response, the taxi drivers got together and planned to attack Israeli football fans, or they quote. I think in one of their WhatsApp groups it was just Jews in general afterwards. Yeah, so they basically went ape. Yeah, I don't know if they do that to other. No. Oh, for fuck! Is that not true? Okay.
More significant for someone like myself, a political commentator, and not one that is just LARPing as one for a little bit and crashing the fuck out in the process. by regurgitating talking points that you're getting from fucking Destiny.
He says all that and then continues to watch a drama video criticizing Ethan instead of just watching Ethan. His audience has pointed this out before.
You're not willing to look up the context of the criticism about you? Do you realistically expect your detractors to do that for you? Yeah, no, I know the context of the criticism because I know where it's coming from. I've heard it a million times over and I've addressed it a million times over. And I think it's bad faith.
It's bad faith, guys, out of context, but everything I watch totally in context and true. I also find it funny that BadEmpanada wants Hasan to copyright strike me.
Hasan should copyright strike this, 100%. He should just copyright strike this. This would not...
This guy is so fucking punitive. What the fuck? Like, why do you want to do this? Like, why are you so obsessed with fucking You react to people all the time. What's wrong with you? Still waiting for that lawsuit. Still waiting. You said you would sue me 2 years ago, Bob. Still waiting.
Pass in court for fair use.
He's saying this, meanwhile Hasan gets up and walks away while reacting to his video. In conclusion, Hasan's a liar, misinterpreting everybody, including himself, if it means he could dodge accountability. He will pull the race card whenever convenient, and even use other people's race cards if he thinks he can use it against them. He's a coward, not willing to stand by any edgy political opinion he has, always retreating to some text or a tweet to avoid being confronted on it, or when in doubt, blame Destiny. Call the person a Nazi. In short, he's exactly who we thought he was. Shocker, if only someone documented this before. WillyMaxShop.com. My politics is common sense. New t-shirt.
He has a lot of Hasan videos, doesn't he? That's a shitload. Okay. He has t-shirts.
This gay guy loves it, so you will too. Hasan, I will...
My politics is common sense. Okay. Whatever, bro. Man, these guys still don't even have the truth on the fucking Al-Ahi explosion, okay? And everyone was clear that it wasn't a fucking Israeli strike. Oh, God. What's the point? What's the point? So even Willy Mack is saying that he condemns Israel's actions and says they're committing war crimes. Like, it's just, whatever. Not good enough, though. Not good enough, boss. Why are you saying that Hamas numbers used in the past were accurate? The health ministry numbers are generally seen as accurate. No? I think the accusation that's happened in the past is that the Israelis have sometimes accused the health ministry of inflating the count by maybe like 100 or so by adding people who died in the process of the war, who died of natural causes. So like if someone died of old age during cast lead, the health ministry would add that to a cast lead death. But I think their raw number of casualties, I think it's accurate, isn't it? Where we can have a look, cast lead. So I believe the health ministry for cast lead said total killed between 1,100 and 1,400. Eventually, the IDF and Hamas agreed on the number of militants, which is funny. Is this not true? The IDF said 1,100. B'Tselem 13. This isn't like a huge discrepancy, isn't it? They never report militants. Yeah, of course they never report militants. This was why it was it Haaretz who spoke about this? 700? Yeah. But this is what they do. This is what these assholes do. And it's like, why would you be surprised if they do it again? Apparently during Cast Lead, Hamas claimed that, or just shortly after, they said they only lost 49 guys. And later admitted it was 600 to 700, which is basically what the IDF said. I think the IDF said 709 or something. Because there's a split motivation. So during the war, it's in your interest as Hamas to make it look like everyone dying is a civilian. And they will literally tell their people to do that, to not report militant deaths, to just report everyone as a civilian, because it mounts up international pressure, and that's good for you. But once the war is over, you have to also let your own people know that you were the ones fighting. And the way you let people know who was fighting is you come clean about the death count. Have you gone on stream over the new report? Which new report? There's always new reports. Shit. How accurate have Israeli numbers been? Well, I'm trying to figure that out. From Cast Lead, it seems like they were fairly accurate. I think they might have overcounted like, I think from the police deaths, the Israelis overcounted about 30 or 40 militants, I think, out of 248.